Welcome to the Capstone Conversation, where you learn about what's happening in the greater East Bay. I am your host, Jared Asch. Today, we are joined by Yulisa Alenez, who is a recent homeowner due to the Habitat for Humanity program, and she is here to tell us our story. Last week's episode was an interview with Habitat for Humanity Executive Director of the Greater East Bay region. This episode tells a story from the heart. Last week's episode focuses on the housing crisis in the Bay Area, along with policies and more about the organization. Yulisa, thank you for joining me, and tell us a little bit more about yourself first.
Thank you for having me. My name's Yulisa. I'm a California native. I was born in California. I came to the Bay Area when I was 4 years old. I'm a big Warriors fan. I lived in the Bay Area my whole life and grew up in Oakland. My mom was able to buy her first home in Oakland. My mom came from Mexico as an immigrant and really pursued the American dream of buying a home. We felt very lucky to have our own place. I remember being a child and having to move from different house and apartments all the time and how hard that was. And when we got this place, I knew that even as a kid that we were going to stay in the neighborhood for a while.
What do you do for work?
What I do for work is I work for a union. I'm a union organizer.
Awesome.
I do. I have a son. He's 12 years old and he's special needs. His name is Cesar. Cesar is named after Cesar Chavez. I have two older sons who are no longer living with me. They are 23 and 27.
We all know about the housing crisis and the rising costs here in the Bay Area. You determined you were going to do something and follow your mother's example and benefit from homeownership. Tell us your story. How did you find Habitat for Humanity? How did you apply?
Sure. How I found Habitat was I was doing research on trying to figure out where could I get affordable housing growing up here in the Bay Area. And then the last decade, just seeing the house market explode and also seeing a lot of my family members and friends having been pushed out of the city that we loved and lived here for so many years and just had to move out. Some of my family members moved out to Antioch or to Tracy because they can no longer afford the rent. For me, that was very scary. I really wanted to stay in the Bay Area. This is where I'm from. This is where I grew up. I get to travel a lot with my job, with the job I do. And there's no other place in the world or the United States that I would rather live than the Bay Area. I just love the Bay Area so much. It's my home. And so the fact that seeing how my friends and family was getting pushed out, my rent was going up every year really scared me. I also have a child who's special needs and making sure that he had stability was also very scary for me, not being able to provide that for him. I came up with this Habitat for Humanity program, which I found very interesting. The opportunity to be a homeowner was something that I never thought I could obtain, especially here in the Bay Area. I thought I would just have to rent the rest of my life if I wanted to live here. When I saw that this could be an opportunity, I was like, okay, how do I get in? I went through the process of filling out an application. And at the beginning, I didn't really have good credit. Working with Habitat, I was able to learn a lot about finances and how finances affect your ability to buy a house. There's a lot of resources that I learned through Habitat on creating a budget, sticking to a budget, and how to save. I thought that saving was impossible because, like I said, I am the only one that works in my household. My partner is helping raise my son, Cesar, who's special needs. And it has always been a challenge to find a childcare provider able to assist with all his needs. His dad or my partner stays home with him. That's the decision that we made to make sure that Cesar has all the support that he needs. And so things have been hard. He got diagnosed when he was 2 years old. He's 12 now. We made that decision to make sure that he had the support and took the therapies to make sure that he had the best success in his future and in his life, or when we're no longer here, was something that was important to us. And we knew that early intervention was something that could change his life forever for the future. Things really became harder when we became a one income family. And so when we applied, after learning a lot about credit and credit scores, we went through a process of waiting for a really long time. I think I first learned about this program about 5 or 6 years ago, and we applied. And after that, we were invited to do an interview to see if we were going to be selected. Once we cleared the application, then there was a committee that interviewed the families to decide who was going to be selected. And we did the interview, myself and my family, and we were pleased to find out that we were selected. The day that we found out we were selected really felt like I had won the lottery. I knew there was only at this Esperanza Place project that it was 42 homes, and everyone in the Bay Area is looking for an opportunity like this that Habitat provides to secure housing. It felt like a relief that I was finally going to be able to secure housing for my son and to make sure that he had stability, because with him having autism, having a very consistent, stable schedule is what really helps him, knowing that he was going to have that and then also have a place where we are going to be able to take care of him as long as we're able to, I like to say, as long as God allows us to take care of him. Really felt like this is going to be life changing for us and family. And this is something that we really need and have been praying.
Wow. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So when did you get to move in, or have you moved in yet?
No, we haven't moved in. We're supposed to move in the next couple of weeks.
What an exciting moment when you get those keys and go through that process. I understand the transition might be hard at first as he gets used to a new place, but I like how you look at the long term in this and setting him up and your family up for that as just somebody who's a hardworking individual, trying to do the best you can in the Bay Area. There's a lot of other people going through what you're going through who work hard but can't make enough to afford rent or housing. What message do you have for the politicians, for decision makers about how to make this easier?
Organizations like Habitat need resources from the cities and need approvals from politicians to make the projects happen. There's this project in Walnut Creek, Esperanza, is really going to be life changing for these 42 families. That includes myself. A lot of the politicians here, especially in the Bay Area, run on affordable housing, but not many deliver on affordable housing. And I think it's the responsibility to make sure that there's money for projects to create more affordable housing for working families here in the Bay Area. It's really hard to make it here in the Bay Area. As we all know, there's a large homeless epidemic in the Bay Area. And I know a lot of the families like myself sometimes feel like, are we a paycheck away from ending on the streets? I know people who are homeless and have a job. It's not because they're lazy or don't want to work. It's just that housing is very expensive in the Bay Area. You have to make 3 times what the rent is. I don't make $9,000. There's a lot of things that the politicians can do, like changing the requirements for someone to be eligible to afford an apartment, figuring out how they get funding or grants to build more affordable housing in their city and their state. Is we're having a housing crisis here in California in the Bay Area. There's not enough housing, and it's their responsibility to deal with it as a crisis.
I like how you talked about financial education. They didn't just hand you keys to a house and say, "Hey, you're a great person. Here you go." They put you on what seems like a 2-year trajectory to
Correct.
improve your finances, educate you, help improve your overall ability to take care of yourself and be a better citizen, right?
Right.
Eh,
We also learned how to work on our house.
How about that?
I got to help build it. There's also a requirement that you do sweat equity, and instead of the monetary down payment, I had to do with myself, my family, and friends 250 hours of sweat equity into the project, which was really exciting and fun. I got to learn a lot, learned how to paint most of the time. We worked on everyone's house. It wasn't just working on your own house, it was working on all the houses. And when you're working on the house, you don't really know which house is going to be yours. And so I think that's a good strategy of Habitat because I would have spent the whole 250 hours in my unit. It makes it really feel like a community learning how to paint and be responsible for the fixing of your house, but also working with the volunteers that come and help the project is very meaningful to know that this person took off on a Saturday morning instead of going to go do something that they like. They're spending the time volunteering, making my dream of being a homeowner and the other homeowners a reality. That's really a good experience. Working with the volunteers, but also working with your future neighbors. Everyone who's selected that I've met is very great. Great. I'm just one story, but all of the homeowners have very amazing stories on their path on being a homeowner and doing that through Habitat.
I like how they built a community in the process. I had volunteered in college and beyond in Florida for Habitat a couple of times. 2 counties that I did this in, they were probably ravaged in the storm, and I remember doing the cinder block foundation for the houses. I hope they're still standing after Hurricane Helene, because I don't know why somebody trusted me to build a foundation and a wall. Painting might have been easy. But I think that's great that you walked away with that community experience and you already know some of your neighbors.
I'm excited to have that community grow. And it's something that I'm really longing, especially for my son who is special needs and doesn't have many friends. I worry about him sometimes just wandering off and knowing that if he wanders off and someone sees him, that he'll be safe and that we have a strong community that is looking out for one another. It's really exciting.
Thank you for being with me and sharing your story. Wait, don't leave yet. Hit subscribe. Make sure you get the weekly updates. We have a new episode every Wednesday for stuff happening in the East Bay. In the meantime, follow me on LinkedIn, Jared Asch, or check out our firm where we have a weekly newsletter and blog at Capstone Government Affairs on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us today on the Capstone Conversation.